So I want to be very, very clear here, as I have been, as the president has been. As President Biden has made clear, this so-called prioritization scheme makes Republicans' priorities pretty clear, crystal clear, if I may add. I'm just going to continue to be prudent here. We have been very clear that we are not going to comment. We are not going to politically interfere. So just to be very, very clear. And look, I've also been very clear about being prudent from here. I was also being very clear about being consistent from here and not going beyond what is currently happening. That is the steps. We have been very clear about that. His mood has been very clear. So look, we have been very clear on this. We have been very, very clear about that. We are going to be prudent from here. We are not going to politically interfere, because one of the things that the president was very clear during the campaign and has been for the last 2 years, look, and I think I've been very clear about this. There's a legal process here, as we've been very, very clear about. I am going to be very clear here, as I have been. Look, the president has been very clear in asking Congress to take action. We've been very clear about that. I was very clear. We are trying to be very prudent here, and I was very clear about that. And I've been very clear. I've been very clear. That's why this is why we are being prudent here. And I'm going to be very prudent. What we're saying here is that we've been very, very clear. I was clear at the top. I was clear when I was just asked this question. We're going to be very, very clear about that. One of the things that we did, and I laid this out pretty clearly, what I am saying is that we have been very clear. So just want to be very clear on this as well. So when the president was running, he made clear, and I've been very clear about that. I've answered that question multiple times already. I'm going to be very prudent here.
Thanks, Karine. On Friday, you stood here, though, and were asked about these documents issued by our count some 18 times. At that point, the president's lawyers had found these 5 additional pages of classified documents. So did you not know on Friday that those documents had been found when you were at the podium, or are you being directed by someone to not be forthcoming on this issue?
I have been forthcoming from this podium. What I said yes to was what the statement at the time that we all had, right? You all had the statement. And I was repeating what the council was sharing at that time.
Right,
we
had that statement, so we knew what was in it. But you also knew. Did you not know that?
I'm telling you, I just answered the question. I just said that I was repeating what the information that we had at that time, right? That you all had. I was confirming from what the special counsel had provided to all of you, and that we knew as well from here. So just to be very, very clear, and look. I've also been very clear about being prudent from here. I was also being very clear about being consistent from here and not going beyond what is currently happening, right? And again, this is an ongoing, I also said this was an ongoing review that was happening with the Department of Justice, and as we know with the special counsel. I've been very consistent about that as well. And that's one of the reasons, your question to me is one of the reasons why we are being very, very careful and very mindful, and to not interfere here, and to make sure that the Department of Justice has their independence. Your question actually proves that, and that's why we're going to continue to refer you to Department of Justice and refer you to the special counsel or my colleagues at White House Counsel.
Does President Biden have confidence in the way his team is handling this, with this trickle out of information and the documents being found day after day?
I can tell you this, the president has confidence. I can tell you this, that the president and his team rightfully took action when they learned that the documents existed. They reached out to the archives. They reached out to the Department of Justice. That is the steps. We have been very clear about that, the steps and the process that we took here. And look, we're going to continue. We're going to continue to, as we have said, fully cooperate with the Department of Justice. We're going to fully cooperate with the President's team is going to fully cooperate with the special counsel. That does not stop, and that will just continue. Again, we are going to respect the independence of the Department of Justice.
Could you describe his mood to us and the conversations you've had with him on this issue?
His mood has been very clear. I saw him this morning. He's very focused. I traveled with him this weekend. He wants to make sure that he's continuing, and we are continuing to deliver for the American people. And we've been pretty consistent on that.
I want to follow up on Cecilia's question, and sorry if I missed it, but on Friday, did you or did you not know about the additional 5 pages?
I literally just answered that question.
But I missed
just-
it, so is it yes or no?
Well, I mean, you're not too far sitting next to her, so I was very clear. I provided the information that you all had at the time, and I confirmed. No, I did not know. I'm saying I had the information. I actually said this to Cecilia. I had the information that you all had at the time, right? And so this is why I also said to Cecilia, this is why we are trying to be very prudent here, and we're trying to be very consistent and say this is an ongoing legal process, and this is why I say we're just not going to comment from here. That is a perfect example in Cecilia's question, and I was very clear about that.
When did you learn about the documents found at the Penn Center in November and in Wilmington in December?
When your team was doing a story on it.
Got it.
Because I was also asked a similar question about if our team has been engaged on this, and I've been very clear, this is something that the White House counsel is handling, this is something that is being handled by the president's lawyers, and been very clear. This is why we are being prudent here. This is why we're being consistent with what we have done the last 2 years when it comes to DOJ, Department of Justice investigation. We are just not going to interfere.
Well, on that note, you've repeatedly emphasized the need, just as you did today, for independence, for integrity of the Department of Justice investigation. One reason why you continue to point us to the DOJ. So I wonder why then did the White House counsel go to Wilmington to facilitate the handing over of documents to the DOJ? How is that separate? How is that separating the White House from the DOJ?
And Weijia, I appreciate the questions. I know there's going to continue to be dozens more questions probably today, and I will say, reach out to the White House counsel's office. That's one of the reasons my colleague was on the phone with many of you taking questions today, and I'm just going to leave it there. That is something for them to answer.
Okay, but it's related to something that you keep telling us, which is how much it is important to this White House to separate the White House from the DOJ's investigation. But the White House counsel was the one to go and facilitate the documents, to look for the documents.
Again, they have been working very closely with the Department of Justice. I would refer you to them. If you want to know specifically about their actions, specifically about what they're doing, I would point you to the White House counsel's office. Look, guys, you guys can ask me this 100 times, 200 times if you wish. I'm going to keep saying the same thing. I hear your question. It's been asked, it's been answered, it's been noted, and we're just going to try to move on here, and we're going to move on. We're going to move on. We're going to move on.
False information.
We're going to move
One
on.
more, because Ian did have that call today, and he said that the White House would, quote, fully cooperate with the investigation. Does that mean that President Biden is willing to be interviewed if called on?
I'm just not gonna, you're asking a question that should go to the White House counsel's office. As you just said, Ian, you spoke to my colleague just moments ago. That is something that the White House counsel's office should be answering. Anything specific to the DOJ or special counsels, what they're doing, you need to reach out to them.